Kyle here from All Media Reviews. Hopefully, I'll try to do a bunch of videos here to try to catch up. I've been meaning to. Um, but this is just a general video blog of what's been going on recently. But the first thing I just want to talk about. I mean, I can talk about a few other things, but um, so it was 8 months ago yesterday. Joyce passed away. Just another month or whatever. Just getting through. Eventually, you stop counting, I guess, as I understand. A lot of widowers stop counting. But 8 months, it's, still pretty hard to believe it's happened, but, every day, every hour, day to day, day by day. Um, well, okay. And I'll talk maybe a little bit about what else is going on, but yesterday, which was the day, it was the 22nd, it's the 23rd now, technically in the morning. I went to go visit Joyce at the cemetery, and I'll give an update about what else happened. But yeah, 8 months. It was Sunday. I'd go off into the cemetery in St. Paul to visit her. Um, on Sundays when the weather's been good, and it's been obviously like last week here. It was like we had like 2 feet of snow, so I didn't go. Didn't really go anywhere that day. Was at home and watched the Academy Awards and listened or drank grapefruit beer for Saundra. But when I was at the cemetery, it was late afternoon. Um, I got a message from my cousin Robin in France, and she told me that she had told me I had been meaning to talk to her recently. Anyways, it's been a few weeks. I talked to her about stuff, especially Joyce, even though she didn't really know Joyce too well. She'd met Joyce, I think, maybe once or twice only. But she was getting together with her family, her her siblings. She lives in France. My cousin Michael lives in New York, and that's her younger brother. Her younger sister Jill lives in L.A. She works in Hollywood actually, but I'm always proud of the fact that my cousin Jill works in Hollywood. She's not an actress, or anything like that, but she's there. She's done a lot of big things, which she does work like costuming and stuff like that. She has done it. I don't know how active she has been recently, but um, her husband didn't go on the trip, Jill, um, to France, to Paris, to visit Robin, but he had, I guess, gone surfing or something like that. I don't know. I don't know much about her husband, like what he does and stuff, why or whatever. But she got word that he had collapsed or something, and he passed away. So, and I mean, I didn't really know him too well. His name is Anthony, but I know he really made her happy. And as far as I know, Jill, not too much older than me. She's the youngest of our cousins, my brother and I. That side of the family, my mom's side. Um, we went to Joyce and I went to their wedding. I think it was 2019. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. Um, September of 2019. I think it was. Is it September of 2018 or September of 2019? I can't remember. I'm trying to remember if it was when we were here or not. I thought that I have a memory being at work after that, and they gave us. It's in my car still, I think, and Joyce still. We still have Joyce, the little flash drive, little silver flash drive that had the music from their wedding and like the playlist or something they used at the dance. They were here in Minneapolis. My uncle and aunt were there. It was he remarried, so it was not Jill's mother, but Jill's mother had passed away. Melanie had passed away in the '90s, but there's actually a bench that's dedicated to her on one of the lakes in Minneapolis. But oddly enough, I was just over in that area, but I don't know. It feels so bad. I don't know why this keeps happening. Not me, but I think Jill and I we share some things in common. We're both the babies of our family, and both got married at a much later age. Although Robin herself got married at a later age, but um, I don't know, wasn't that old. I don't know how old he was, but I wish there was something I could do to help. But I want to do everything I can if there's anything I can do. I talked to Robin and talked to Jill. She's sent me texts and stuff since Joyce passed away and everything. But our family, a lot of our family lived long lives, but not everyone. Now he's obviously married into the family, but I don't know. It's just I wish there's something I could do, but she's got to go through this, I guess. But I hope her siblings are going to be there for her as much as they can be, and just I'm going to text her when I can or whatever. But she just, I mean, she's in the same position I was in literally last July, 8 months ago, yesterday or today. But I mean, I guess I had a little bit of warning, but I don't compare the two necessarily. It's just the same position of losing someone that you loved and wanted to spend the rest of your life with. I mean, yeah, I don't know a ton about him. His family was, I'm not sure their ethnicity. I thought it was Japanese, but I could be wrong on that. But I know that Jill worked, a long time out there in Hollywood and everything like that, and you know, we would talk sometimes. We had like family reunions, and not as much as I wish, but I understood. There's just there never was like a ton of time. We would talk though, and I know she once said that she wanted to settle down. She was talking about wanting to have a family at one point, but it's just a shame. Just so, but I'm it's not going to be easy for her. I'm sure. Um, I'm imagine that she has a lot of friends out there, and again, she has her family, immediate family. She's not a first cousin of mine. She's a first cousin of my mom's, but I don't know. I mean, people, not everyone gets to live until their 80s, 90s, but just so. Um, I guess I could elaborate more on what happened over the weekend and everything too. So here, hold on a second. Where is it? Um, kind of related. Well, I mean, there's one other pressing thing on my mind still right now. My neighbor's missing her cat. Her cat walked out, ran out on Saturday afternoon, and I've done mostly what I can do. I gotta still try sharing it to some other groups, but her cat Mako, this gray cat, kind of gray, blackish gray, charcoal, you know, walked out. I guess her daughter or something had left the door open or something like that. And so I was walking around our neighborhood, a little bit like with Latte I did years back. Joyce was just bugging me. You got to go look for her, or him rather. So I did. It didn't. I mean, part of it, at least with Latte, he was an outdoor cat, and he knew the basic area around our neighborhood. Though he was very sensitive about if he got outside the area. But um, I mean, the weather has been. It was nice on Saturday. It was up to 79 at least. But yesterday, Sunday, it was. I don't know what the high was. Maybe low 40s. I mean, Latte at least managed, and he was a thin fur. He didn't have, but hopefully her cat. She said 3 years ago, my neighbor, that Mako had gotten out too, but he was gone for like 2 or 3 weeks, and he came back not in great shape. But the hope is that he's not like hiding underneath some car. He's actually, someone took him in or something. I don't know, but that was I was on Saturday I did some stuff, and then that came up. I was so I can talk a little bit more about that, but just a second here. Saturday was 2 months for the loss of Saundra, Joyce's friend. And they also did finally per se, celebration of life for her at the church that her sister's of deaconess. Got this thing and everything. Saundra, the service and stuff. I did say something and read a tribute that one of her friends from New Zealand sent me that couldn't be there, of course. Um, and I went up and like a bunch of people said I met some of her cousins. I don't know, there were like 40 or 50 people at this church, Epworth, in Minneapolis. Um, I went up and said something along with a bunch of other people, and read that tribute. Yeah, some of her cousins. Sandra was from Chicago, and some of them came in, and some of them lived in Atlanta. Not everyone was there. I mean, some were, but like the people that had come in, her friend Ed from New York, and his partner, and her friend Pay from Southern California, and her partner weren't there, unfortunately. But they're trying to maybe do something around her birthday. But I don't know. Talking to Shirley, that's still in the works if it happens. No certainty, but I'm sure she'll do something for her. But no, I was just trying to jog my mind about memories. I just kind of rehashed a little bit what I said here on YouTube. The phone calls that we used to have, and then Saundra. I mean, she had a long, sort of accomplished life, long before she even met Joyce, and then myself later, a few years later. But Shirley put together a slideshow. There were a few photos from when we went bowling at this place called Elsie's in northeast Minneapolis on her birthday a few years back. Was that? I think that was on her birthday in October. And then there was one from the state fair that I've shared. But there's a lot of photos of Sandra from the before I knew her that I've got. Again, that thumb drive probably might have had some, but it's weird with Joyce and her. She got to know Joyce so well, but like her Joyce's friend Shannon, her and Sandra probably only worked together for a couple of years. Then Joyce went to the other Barnes and Noble. It's like maybe a year and a half, whatever it was, because she went to the Barnes and Noble in Dunham, Minneapolis, like in 2009. Sandra didn't even come to Minnesota in 2007, but yeah, I met her brother who had come in not long before she had passed away in January. And I was thinking there might be more Barnes and Noble people. There was one of her friends from Barnes and Noble that's friends with Joyce too, that was there that I briefly talked to. But some of her cousins and some of I don't know, and people at the church that I was talking to them. A couple of people named Nan and Nancy, about the Monkees. I think it was Nancy. Said she was a big Monkees fan too, but she went back to the '60s. But um, I signed up for bowling every Sunday now, starting in a few weeks. April 19th, I think it is, like the Sunday after Record Store Day at this place, at Memory Lanes, where Joyce and I had met. I'd been to Memory Lanes. I thought I'd been there before. Yeah, yes. I don't know why I had been there before I met Joyce, but I'm like 98% certain I'd been there. I mean, it was near my bank and stuff like that. That was part of it, but anyway, Joyce and I met there before we were dating. It was when she needed help with the train. But anyway, and then we end up going there once or twice for burlesque. I talked about the burlesque show I saw back in December. We'd watch burlesque there. And then we had met Michael and Melinda, her friends, around New Year's at Memory Lanes, of 2020, right before COVID. I think we did bowl, but anyway, there's this thing called Better Off Bowling that I signed up. It's going to be every week on Sundays at 3:30 for like 5 or 6 weeks, like 6 weeks. Join a league. It's more about the social part of it, but my thinking is because it's pretty close to her church. It's on the other side of Lake Street, but I could stop into the church. I don't know. I'm trying to do so much. I need to, my trip to the cemetery on Sundays and um, working out and some other things. So I guess it's So that's one thing I thought about yesterday after I was, or Saturday, I guess technically. I'd be in the area. The people there are nice, really nice. That's even though Saundra technically wasn't a member of the church, she was part of the church, and her sister Shirley, she lived with, was and does work there. But we went there also one year at least for their Mardi Gras thing. They would do Mardi Gras, and I have a memory of like Joyce twisting her ankle or something. We had to go. It wasn't right away, but it was like an hour and a half. And one of my coworkers from my job was there, which was bizarre. She eventually left where I work, but yeah, that was my memory of that place. I mean, it's not far. It's in southeast Minneapolis, technically. But so yeah, then to yesterday, Sunday, before going to the cemetery and then getting the word about my cousin's husband, I met up with the Geek. So I'm starting to understand a little bit more about this. There's a Twin Cities Geek group that's been around for many years on Facebook, and I've been part of it because I like posted about the Deep Space Nine documentary in there years ago, and I mean the different factions in the Twin Cities into science fiction, fantasy per se, but it's not just that. Have different layers and like a lot of groups. I mean, Twin Cities isn't massive; it's big enough though. That do the cons, Convergence, and my friend John and I briefly went to MarsCon a few weeks ago. Next weekend, next 2 weeks from now, is MiniCon. That one goes back to, maybe go back to the 70s. Anyway, Twin Cities Geeks, you could say, is an offshoot of that, but then within the Twin Cities Geeks, then they started a Twin Cities Geeks singles, which is relatively new. I don't know how, a few years old. And even within the Twin Cities Geeks singles, there's a bunch of different people that get together. There was supposed to be one, it was a week ago Sunday, but we had all the snow and it got canceled at this cafe in St. Paul. And I thought it was rescheduled for this past Sunday, yesterday, but it was a different group, so it's funny. Um, but we got together in this place in Minneapolis. I got completely lost because of GPS, the similar streets. Ended up in North Minneapolis, where I'd been back around Valentine's Day a few times, but same streets cutting across, but it was west of Lake Street, near where my cousin Jill and her siblings' mother has a bench near that. Off that, it's not Lake Calhoun anymore. It's Bidet or something like that. Anyway, it's right near there, near my grandmother's old condo and the Calhoun Beach Club and everything. But we met there, and I up with someone who I'd been talking to a little bit and seen posted in the Facebook group. So this woman. So I don't know. We might get to know each other. Anyway, that was good. Overall, it's good to meet someone. I mean, I didn't foresee that. But then afterwards, I was there for a couple hours. We didn't really play. Like, I brought the Star Trek Monopoly, which I brought back upstairs, I think. Which I gotta believe one of two things. Either we saw that at Target at some point in the last 7, 8 years, or Joyce saw it. Because there's a bunch of different versions of Monopoly up there. We didn't play it though. I actually got out a lot more. There's been previous part of the Twin Cities Geek community, just the geek community, meets near me down near the river here, once a month on Sundays. So, but that when I've gone to that, it's just been myself talking to one woman who organized it. She's doing a puzzle, and then a few people are playing like a card game, like Cards Against Humanity. Hasn't been as social. Not that I spent a lot of time there, but the group yesterday was more social. It was maybe more with speed. Although we didn't talk about a ton of geeky things. I mean, we did, but we didn't. But the main thing is this woman that I met. I've been talking to. We got more acquainted, and it's one thing to talk to someone through Messenger. It's another thing if you're actually physically there or just talking with them, and you get a better sense about them. So, I don't know. So that was overall a positive. But it's right near Lakewood Cemetery, which I've been meaning to go. Like, I'd actually talked. Saundra is the one that told me about that, even though I should have known about that years ago. It's right near there, near that Bidet Lake, which used to be Calhoun. like just south on Hennepin. But it's a massive cemetery, and a lot of politicians are there. And I took some photos, and there were a bunch of wild turkeys and stuff. But they have like a death cafe or something like that. They're not open on Sundays. They're not open in the evenings, but they're open on Saturdays. So I'm thinking I may go like back out there, especially if the weather gets warmer. Yesterday wasn't like Saturday was one. I could have done it Saturday maybe, but so I probably should update that too. Um, and Joyce's mother, my mother-in-law, she was in the hospital about a little like a month ago, right when I was dating Laura. Right after that week, she went to rehab at the nursing home. I mentioned this in the last video, but then she had what ended up being a minor stroke, and she ended up back in the ER in the hospital. But different things happened. But she was basically things were she's been able to eat and talk, and she was up. She moved around a little bit when she was in the hospital. She was there though for over 2 weeks, I think. I forget the exact amount of time. Anyway, she was discharged last week. She ended up going to another nursing home. It's one that she had worked at back in the '80s. She'd bring Joyce along when Joyce was really little, um, little sisters. So she's there, and that is probably well. It's I guess it's you could say they're playing it by ear, but it's more indefinite where she'll be there. But I've seen her like 3 or 4 times there now, and the positive is she's kind of continuing a lot of that what was going on at the hospital, maybe being better. So because she's got up, she's doing a little walking too. Actually, that's the big thing is her mobility. So I mean, I mentioned the H word. Um, at this point, I don't know if it's technically under hospice. She may just be. She's just considered under long term care. So her prognosis and everything is still uncertain. But right now, I can tell that her mother, Joyce's grandmother, had a little bit of a similar pattern in that she was kind of hanging on, or her body was in effect for a while. Like it was like maybe almost 2 years. So her mom, her mom may at least to some degree bounce back. I don't know what that means as far as where she goes, what it is. I don't know. The point being is that she's still she's still doing things. I'm seeing her. Joyce's cousins are obviously seeing her too every day, and that at least is keeping her going to some degree. So it's a positive overall, though it's still very concerning about what her longer term. That's why she's in long term care, but longer term prognosis is. But maybe she'll be around at least for like Easter and Mother's Day. It's little sisters is more religious, and that's maybe more her speed. So like I said, she used to work there in the '80s. So show this. I wanted to do a video blog about some other things that happened, but that was the main thing over the last few days. I mean, what have I done, other than that, but um, yeah, I guess maybe I'll save this for the next video, but my thoughts are very largely with my cousin and then my cat. I mean, this is Joyce and I's first date. That was one thing I could add was March 26th, 2011. That will be March 26th, 2026, 15 years this coming Thursday. And we're going, I'm meeting some of her friends out in Jensen's and Egan, where we went last year, Joyce and I. Have the big popovers and stuff. Um, but yeah, the whole year of first and stuff like that. And but anyway, I'm going to get to the other videos. I mean to do those for a while. But thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.